obviously in the limelight today, but it's kind of been a topic that has been going around on the Twitter space a bit. And it's not only say it started from this tweet, but it's like one of the main tweets I did happen to get. And MK has been around for so long, right? It rivals that of Street Fighter, right? In terms of longevity, before your Tekkens, before any of your Arc Sys games. It's a cultural. It's just a part of our culture. It's just putting it out there. It's deep impact. And what was it known for, right? I mean, no, this is not a rhetorical question. Class, what was Mortal Kombat known for?
Blood.
Exactly.
Gore.
The blood, the gore, the fatality, the realistic characters, quote unquote, right?
Oh, and the
at the time.
Style.
And Toasty, right? Yeah.
Toasty. Yeah.
So nowadays in this more, I don't want to say proper age or anything like that. In the age of sensitivity, in the age of more people watching more things, which is fine, kids being exposed to more to watch, right? MK, right, is a more adult orientated game because of the sheer gore and everything in it, right? It's not something you give little Timmy to play while he's at your uncle's house or at home or something like that.
Instead, give him a call.
I have a story.
Okay.
So I know where you're going, but I have a story. This weekend was the beta. I went over to my brother's house because I uploaded it on his PS5. I don't have one. So I uploaded on his PS5, my account, and he was like, why is it not working? And I'm like, oh my God, let me go over and I'll put it on. He's on the couch with his daughter. She's 7. And I played. And then he goes, what is it? He does the Liu Kang fatality. And I'm like, okay. And he goes, yeah, it's fine. I'm like, all right. So, the head splat, boom, spaghetti all coming down. She goes, man, he's everywhere.
Start him off young.
So she goes, man, and his guts are everywhere. I'm like, yeah, they are.
Okay.
So
all right.
Had a moment.
Then the thing is, she started to memorize the inputs. She was like, oh, so it's like forward, down, forward. Okay, good. I remember. And I'm like, all right, she's not going to win to get there. So that's cool. But eventually she's going to know. And she knows that they're there.
Mm-hmm. Did she win?
Yeah. Huh? No.
Oh, okay.
Anytime she lost, I finished the ladder for her. But I was like, oh, God, man, I can't. Like, I was like, I'm not showing the Sub-Zero one. I'm not doing the other one. I'm not doing So,
what if she just figured out where the combo list was and then just was like, oh, that's
everybody should.
She can. Yeah, but if she can get past it. But to Dre's point, he's going somewhere with it.
So the whole point of that, thanks for the story, is, that's been talked about, in a more esports centric world, bit more, proper for TV, proper for broadcasting, proper for sponsorship, proper for all these companies to get involved. The talk has been like Mortal Kombat has obviously not had the same opportunities due to the fact that it is a gore fest of a game. That's what it is, right? And companies might not want to get involved with that, even though it's a cultural thing. It's a cultural icon. It's known for that. It's accepted for that. It's literally one of the big reasons why the ESRB was created in the first place, which helps rate and set games up to what audiences what age you should be at, just like the rating system for movies, right? Literally the same thing. Rewind, former Evo champ, known player in the NRS community, right? Brought it up last week, or a little bit more than last week, actually. I don't realistically see Mortal Kombat having the same opportunities as Street Fighter with all the gore. They have to figure out a way to toggle the gore and blood on and off so esports can thrive. So what he's saying at is, as a player who's invested in playing this game, making the tours, the tournaments and such, right? Depending on what companies want to get into bed with said tournament or where they want to have their logos at or be affiliated with, they might not want to be affiliated with a game that not endorses, but it's about killing each other and seeing it, right? Spines getting ripped out, femurs getting dislocated, ribs getting crushed, characters getting eaten by lizards and vomited back out into acid to then probably get eaten again. It's like, yes, it's beautiful. Oh, give me more MK. But is that what a company wants to get involved with, right? So that naturally tends to limit opportunities because it's just how brands want to be affiliated. And this is nothing new. This is not new. We've been on ESPN and Armika couldn't wear her default costume, right? Cammy's intro was changed to make it more acceptable to be seen. It's not new in this IP, and they've even had like the ability to turn
Combat
blood off before, right? Yeah, Combat League. They've had the ability to turn blood off, and even there have been other precautions already where you weren't allowed to do a fatality, or they didn't want, they would never show it on screen, right? They wouldn't show it on screen. So there have been, countermeasures to it, but what Rewind is kind of more alluding to, it's like, can there be like an esports toggle? It's almost like a censorship toggle you could have in the game, or it sounds like that's where he's leading towards. It kind of sounds like the thing we talked about with Skullgirls, right? Where they censored the game that was, already bought or whatever. They changed it, a bunch of cutscenes, this, that, and the other. And it got some people riled up because it was just part of the identity of the game. And they didn't want to have that forcefully, I want to be very clear, forcefully pulled away without the consumers who have paid money for said content or for that identity to exist in their library, in their games, whatever, like, their physical copies, digital copies, whatever. I am for, if you want to clean it up, let there be a toggle for it. But once again, let it be to the consumers to change that. If it's supposed to be broadcast orientated, okay. Hey, did someone turn off the blood in before we started broadcasting? It's like, no. Oh, okay. Well, some sponsor might get pissed, but there you go. Perfect Legend actually posted up on Twitter. MK9 used to have no blood code that disabled blood and fatalities. Like, yeah, it was already there. But it's interesting because that frame of thought is because these players are invested in this time and they want to have every opportunity. Is it unfair that one game gets to have more opportunity than the other just because of the identity? I'm like, that's kind of like the norm, though, isn't it? NBA gets more opportunities than, I don't know, NFL does in certain areas, for all we know, right?
Well, you have to also look at the concept that, like, okay, we're talking about redesigning the game. We're not even talking about making the game acceptable for people to watch, right? Because like back then it was easy. Like, they're just hitting each other. They're not doing fatal blows. They're not doing any of these extreme moves that have detail to them. And it's not even just the blood. We're talking about like cracking bones and
X-rays, mechanics, and stuff like that, right?
Like, so now we're talking about redesigning the game. And here's how I look at it is, I understand both sides, but if you tell them to redesign the game and they never had this in thought that, hey, we need to kind of tone it down or have that option, it's almost like saying make two different games or take away something that, like you said, is the identity of the game. Yeah. I don't think you could take away me crushing someone's bones if I design that for that moment, unless you just have it so they just hit them and then you see the impact of the damage, but not from the outside, right? I mean, not from the inside. You just see the outside. That's doable, and I guess it makes sense, but we're talking about possibly playing a different game at this point. So I don't know if that's feasible or if that's a patch that can be made, but how much to the degree of the game has to change. That's we have to look at.
And the other part also, which I didn't get a chance to bring up, was even the idea of monetization and content creators for the game.
Yep, that was my next spot.
Like, how often do you see the rainbow filter and such? Because YouTube will recognize that, and it's like, well, you could have passion for this game, and you're like, oh, you're into the lore, you're into playing the game. Maybe you're just a high-ranking player and you want to put up your sessions, and maybe you got a following, but you can never monetize on it because it's the game you picked. Not because of yourself, not because of the system, but inherently because you just happen to have rolled the dice, like line them up, let's do this. And you rolled craps on and got MK, and now you can't make money off of doing that, putting the same grind as another. If you were a Street Fighter content creator, it wouldn't be a big deal, right? It didn't matter. It would just because they didn't have that. It wasn't part of that identity, right? Yeah, you got bruises, blah blah blah, not a big deal, whatever. But you know that it fall like, so a streamer mode or a gore mode on and off, a blood mode, combat code, something. Give Havoc a lower jaw so he doesn't, you know, but how does that work with characters like Havoc, right? Like where their identity, literal identity of the character is this very gruesome, really grotesque way of fighting where it's like, how do you fix that? And is that an investment enough from NRS? Because that takes time, that takes people, that makes money, that takes money and resources to create that addition to it. Is it in their scope to do it? Do they even care? Right, is the other thing.
I think another big thing we have to realize is, like, if we're talking about doing like streamer modes and stuff like that, it's not just going to be on NRS, it's also going to be on those platforms, right? So like we talked about how, yeah, okay, they're not going to be able to make as much money as maybe like a Street Fighter player who is at the top and able to put out their sessions of content, which it does suck, but that's why there's other platforms. And I do understand it sucks because now you're being relegated towards like maybe having to use TikTok more, Instagram, or something that's not gonna, maybe not Instagram, but maybe TikTok or Rumble.tv and other platforms that you don't normally want to be on. Which then I do agree, it begs to differ. Like, okay, well, we lost opportunities, but you got to remember, you also kind of chose that game. I mean, like, this is not new. We've seen the formula for NRS games be like this. Injustice was a great example of how they kind of reeled it back. But we got to be honest with ourselves. This is MK, right? So if people were asking for this should have been the first thought the moment they were like, we're announcing a new MK game, right? It shouldn't have been a last thought when they're like, oh man, just like before, crazy combos, crazy broken ribs, lots of gore. Like, this has to be something that the community comes together and probably doesn't say censorship, but finds a way to, like you said, make a limitation on it where it's like, okay, if we go play on ESPN or we're playing on, like, I don't know, Fox TV, can we get away with showing some things, or can we not?
TV.
Yeah, I use Fox because there's nothing else in my head. I'm not gonna say WB. WB is like the most
NBC, ABC, like, baby,
like the family channel.
Yeah,
it's like ABC Family.
HGTV.
There you go.
Could you imagine NRS games like MK next to like a Hallmark movie, like right after you finish, like
right after Lil Bill,
like here's Hallmark. You see somebody getting a crushing blow in the between,
flawless
as your ad,
flawless victory.
Next on ABC Family, 8 o'clock.
MK1.
ABC Family After Hours.
After Hours.
Oh yeah, I mean,
just like Adult Swim, and you have the tsunami, like
TGI Fridays. Thank God it's fatality.
So look, geez, that went somewhere.
Oh, wow.
I think, yes, I'm down for like the whole. I mean, obviously, this is why these guys, they put like a color filter over the videos. Definitely, if they want to monetize it, but like, people are not willing to just put the video out there and just be like, yeah, you know, and then they're demonetized or something. Like, it's a different world. Like, that's actually what you guys are, what we're all talking about. However, I think it depends on who's want to monetize it. Like, tournaments, do they monetize off of their uploads? I mean, you have a lot of players who do that for different games, like the VODs and all that,
the replay, like, vultures, all that stuff.
Like Jaco Man, yeah, stuff like that. Like Jaco Man, he does that for Marvel. He'll have a match be played on his stream and or on his PS4 and put it up there. Like me losing a first to 10 for a reason. So
go look it up, Jaco Man, Static Gorilla, first to 10, get bodied. I've
lost probably all of them. It's okay. It just happens.
But yeah, it is an interesting situation. Is it just Mortal Kombat isn't for you, go pick another game, or is this something that should be tackled? It's interesting because, especially like I said, in the day and age now where you can monetize it all, there's just so much more you can just, it could be put everywhere, more people can see it, it's more exposed. It's like, I like the NRS. Just they accept it. They accept it for what it is, and they're still Combat League, right? Which is just their own internal circuit, that they control, and they're the ones that can make those deals. But when it comes to anything more esportsy, that's like something to That's a bridge we'll have to burn when we get to it.
I'll say this real quick. Maybe we have to look at from a more raw situation, such as like something like Gamescom, right? Does that work? Like they let it rock. Is that okay? Do they, you know what I mean? Like,
good point.
You got to look at it from there as a starting point because they showcased the whole thing, full blood, gore, everything. So are people willing to be, or companies more willing to be accepting of the fact that that's just Mortal Kombat?
At this point, the game's been out for fucking what, 30 something years now. It's like, yeah. That's like, it has not been apologetic about it. The most we've had is like, you know, right when it was on Nintendo, right? There was no blood in the original one. It was sweat.
Depending which one you got.
Gray. Yeah, if it was Genesis, you got the blood code.
ACABABB.
Yeah, the one with the inferior music and everything, right, Gabe? You never liked the Genesis music.
You shut your mouth.
You said the Super Nintendo was better.
Sega Genesis.
Anyway,
no, Sega Genesis is the.
You started.
We've had arguments about this. I don't know what he's doing. His connection's breaking up. I can't hear you, Gabe. You're